following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. The binding pages. Leona's fingers trembled as she traced the peculiar symbols etched into her husband's leather-bound journal. Moonlight pierced through the attic window, illuminating dust motes that danced around her like silent specters. The book had appeared on her doorstep exactly 1 year after Isaac's death, wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. The paper had been stained with something dark that smelled of copper and sage. "Mommy." Jax's voice pierced the silence. His twin brother Ian lingered behind him at the top of the attic stairs, both boys clutching their favorite stuffed dragons. "We heard whispering. It's saying your name." The blood rushed from Leona's face. She'd heard it too, the subtle susurration of voices between the walls, growing stronger since the journal's arrival. The book pulsed beneath her fingers like a beating heart. "No whispers up here, loves, just going through Daddy's old things." The twins exchanged that uncanny look they'd developed since Isaac's passing, a silent conversation that made Leona's skin prickle. At 6 years old, they'd grown more connected, more attuned to things she couldn't perceive. Sometimes she'd catch them speaking to empty corners or drawing pictures of shadowy figures with too many limbs. "The dragons are restless," Ian said, stepping forward. His stuffed toy's glass eyes caught the moonlight, reflecting it like a cat's. "They say the book wants to be read. They say Daddy's trapped inside with the hungry things." Leona's throat tightened. A fat drop of blood rolled from Ian's nose, matching the one starting to drip from Jax's. The boys had never seen this journal before. She hadn't either, until tonight. "Back to bed, both of you, now." After tucking them in for the second time, she returned to the attic, drawn to the journal like a moth to flame. The leather felt warm, alive, and slick with something that wasn't quite sweat. Opening it revealed pages of Isaac's precise handwriting interwoven with elaborate diagrams and symbols that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Some of the symbols appeared to have been drawn in dried blood. Her eyes fell on a passage that stood out from the rest, written in red ink that still glistened wetly. "When shadows lengthen and walls whisper, speak these words to bind what must not break free. But remember, my love, every binding has its price. The order demands blood, and blood will be given." Below the warning was a phrase in a language she didn't recognize. The syllables tugged at her mind, begging to be spoken. The longer she stared, the more the letters seemed to crawl across the page like insects. Against her better judgment, Leona began to read aloud. "Mortis vinculum, sanguis sigillum." The attic plunged into darkness. Cold air rushed past her, carrying the stench of decay. The candles she'd lit extinguished themselves, their smoke forming twisted faces that leered at her before dissipating. In the twins' room below, both boys sat up in perfect synchronization, their eyes reflecting the same eerie light as their dragons. Their screams came in perfect harmony. The next morning, Leona found the twins' drawings plastered across their bedroom walls had changed. The crayon dragons now faced different directions, their poses altered. When she blinked, they shifted again. The figures they guarded against had grown more distinct, spindly shapes with too many joints, pressing against the paper as if trying to break through. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You've opened the door he died to close." The hunger grows. Feed it, or it feeds on them. In her kitchen, coffee swirled in Leona's mug without being stirred. Dark shapes darted at the edge of her vision. The twins spoke in perfect unison at breakfast, describing dreams of their father standing in a circle of salt, holding back shadows with outstretched hands. Their eyes had turned the same shade of amber as Isaac's had been in his final days. "The hungry things tried to eat Daddy," Jax said, his voice eerily adult. "But Daddy ate them first," Ian finished. "Now they're all inside the book together." Leona returned to the journal, searching for answers. Pages that had been blank now filled with Isaac's hurried scrawl. The letters formed from squirming shadows. The order of eternal bindings chose me before I met you. I thought I could leave it behind. I was wrong. They'll come for the twins next. Their power doubles in pairs. The hunger in them is strongest. Keep them safe. The price must be paid in blood and bone and memory. A photo slipped from between the pages. Isaac standing with a group of robed figures, their faces obscured except for his. Where their faces should have been, only darkness swirled. The photo was dated 3 days before his supposed cancer diagnosis. On the back, written in fresh blood, "The hunger never ends. Only the vessel changes." The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a dark suit, holding a folder stamped with a familiar symbol, the same one emblazoned on Isaac's journal. Behind him stood more figures, their proportions subtly wrong, suits rippling over forms that couldn't quite maintain human shape. "Mrs. Morgan," the man called out, his voice resonating at frequencies that made her teeth ache. "We're here about your husband's unfinished business. The twins have an inheritance to claim. The hunger must be fed." Behind her, the boys' dragons thumped down the stairs by themselves, cloth wings now rippling with scales that caught the light. Stuffing leaked from their seams like blood, transforming into sinew and muscle before her eyes. The stuffed toys positioned themselves between Leona and the door, their glass eyes now burning with real flame. Their shadows stretched impossibly long, devouring the other shadows that tried to seep through the door's cracks. Leona clutched the journal to her chest, feeling its heat through her shirt. Pages fluttered open by themselves, and Isaac's final message burned itself into her mind. "The binding spell works both ways, love. I'm still here, trapped between pages and shadows, fighting what I've swallowed. Release me, and I'll tell you everything. Keep me bound, and they'll never find the twins. But hurry, the hunger grows stronger. Soon I won't remember which memories are mine and which belong to what I've consumed." The man outside knocked again, harder. The house trembled, and hairline cracks spread across the walls, leaking shadows that twisted into grasping hands. Upstairs, the twins began to sing an ancient lullaby they couldn't possibly know, the same one written in the margins of Isaac's journal. Their voices carried a power that made reality ripple. Dark liquid seeped beneath the door, forming symbols on her hardwood floor. The dragon's flames cast moving shadows on the walls, shadows that didn't match their source. In the journal, new words wrote themselves in Isaac's hand, the letters bleeding. "Remember when I said I'd move heaven and earth to protect our family? I meant it literally. The hunger can be contained, but never destroyed. Someone must always guard the door. Someone must always feed it memories, keep it sated, bear its weight." Leona opened the journal to its final page, where a single phrase glowed with otherworldly light. She had a choice to make. Release her husband from his self-imposed prison, or maintain the barrier he'd sacrificed himself to create. The shadows writhed thicker now, taking forms from her nightmares. The twins appeared beside her, each placing a small hand on the journal. Their touch made the symbols writhe and pulse. Blood dripped from their eyes now, matching the liquid seeping from the book's spine. "Daddy's waiting," they said in unison, "but so are they. The hunger must be fed." Outside, more dark-suited figures joined the first, their shadows stretching impossibly long in the afternoon sun. Where the shadows touched, reality cracked like glass. The dragons grew larger, their stuffing completely transformed into scales and sinew. Their roars shook the house's foundation, but the things outside roared back with voices that existed in frequencies that human ears were never meant to hear. The journal burned hotter, pages flipped by themselves, showing glimpses of the horrors Isaac had bound within, things of tooth and shadow, of hunger and void, pressing against their prison of paper and ink. His handwriting grew more frantic with each page, describing how he'd discovered the Order's true purpose, how they fed the ancient hunger with sacrificial vessels, how he'd turned their own binding ritual against them to protect his family. Leona looked at her sons, their eyes now swirling with the same strange light that had haunted Isaac in his final days. She understood at last. The cancer story had been a lie. Her husband hadn't died of natural causes. He'd bound himself into his journal, becoming a barrier between two worlds, containing horrors by feeding them his own memories and essence, piece by piece. The choice was clear. Leona raised the journal and began to read. Not the release spell glowing on the final page, but the binding spell from the beginning. The one that had started everything. Power surged through her veins as reality bent around her words. The twins smiled, their father's smile as darkness rippled around them. The dragons roared with voices that shook the foundations of the house. Outside, the dark-suited figures began to dissolve like smoke in a strong wind, their true forms revealed in their final moments, masses of shadow and hunger, of void and appetite. The journal sealed itself shut, its leather cover now etched with 3 names instead of 1. The binding was complete, stronger than ever. Isaac had protected his family the only way he could, by becoming their guardian, forever watching from between pages of his own making. His sacrifice had bought them time, but Leona knew now that the hunger would never end. It could only be contained, passed from vessel to vessel, bound in blood and memory and love. In the twins' room that night, their drawings shifted one final time. Now they showed a family of 4, standing together within a circle of protective light. Behind them loomed 2 dragons, and between the pages of a floating book, a father's loving smile watched over them all. But in the margins, shadows gathered, waiting. The hunger would grow again. The price would need to be paid again. Some doors once closed should stay that way forever. But keeping them closed demands sacrifice, and the hunger is patient. It can wait. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.